So at Intel, we noticed that the lack of digital readiness and digital skills among women is a critical factor, a factor that society must address to reduce the digital divide. Good evening, and it's such an honor and pleasure to be with all of you in person today. You know, we've often heard about digital divide, and more than often we've discussed how that really impacts inequalities, specifically when we look at the socio-economic growth across the globe. Today, we are facing a generational shift when it comes to emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. Now, this can either be a very defining moment where we can either level the playing field, or in fact, we can kind of not do anything, which means simply don't take any action, and then increase the present digital divide. Now, this becomes far more critical and amplified when we look at the use of technology under the gender lens. Our focus at Intel is to build tech equity and reduce the gender-based digital divide to ensure that we advance into a more inclusive, more sustainable world than perhaps the one we are living in today. We drive large-scale programs to create a workforce for the industry, right? These programs support diverse talent, talent development for the ecosystem, for our partners, for us, ourselves, and for the countries we operate in. But before I speak to you more about these programs, allow me to share a small reflection with all of you. I have been working with Intel since 2010, and we typically attend various leadership development forums. In one such forum, a statement really resonated with me, which was all about the single most critical factor which predicts a group's collective intelligence, or like we call it, the CI factor, is actually the social sensitivity. Now, this was a study which was quantifying collective intelligence in human groups, and it kind of defined the group's ability to perform a wide variety of tasks. They also found that a group's CI was correlated not only to the individual intelligence of every single member in the group, but the average social sensitivity of the group members and the proportion of female in that group. Now, you all know we work as teams, right? So to succeed, it became critical that our team has to be more intelligent in decision-making than the other teams. And it also became very clear to us that increasing the team's social sensitivity really meant enhancing the diversity quotient. So we started questioning our inherent biases. Speakers before me have spoken about the inherent biases, right? And whether we like it or not, they impact our decisions. So a friend guided me to attempt, which was called the implicit association test. Have any of you done that before? It's basically, it's all about educating the public on how, there's a virtual laboratory for collecting data by Harvard researchers. Just a quick show of hands if you've ever done it. Oh, okay, so somebody has. So my implicit association test on the gender and career suggested, and this is really surprising, right? Because I've been working all my adult life, really suggested a result which I'm not very happy with. It says that I have a moderate automatic association of males with career and females with family. And this was shocking to me personally. So since then, I started recognizing my own cognitive biases, and I'm trying to overcome them. By the way, the test is still live. The link is there in the presentation, so I would recommend and encourage you to just attempt it. Moving ahead, one may ask, why is it essential to create tech equity, right? And increase the participation of women in the digital revolution. We are seeing today, as per the World Economic Forum, 90% of jobs globally in the next few years will have a digital component, and they will favor digitally skilled individuals. The Gender Snapshot 2022 report by UN Women concludes that low and middle income countries had over $1 trillion in GDP growth reduced due to women's exclusion from digitalization. In fact, 54% of women in the Asia-Pacific region have digital access. And that's, again, not a figure which we can be very proud of. Now, though there's a considerable gender gap when we speak about digital inclusion and digital parity, there is an opportunity to really add 28 trillion US dollars in GDP growth by 2025 if we create gender parity at our workplace. Let me just give you a quick cross-sectional analysis of what exactly is the gender-based digital divide. Now, the key dampeners, which a lot of research has come back to us with, is lack of infrastructure, access to primary education itself, and inadequate digital readiness. For example, the Mobile Gender Gap Report in 2023 highlights that the gender digital divide is most pronounced in South Asia, simply because women cannot afford to buy a mobile phone or would have the literacy and digital skills which would be relevant for them to transact business on it. So at Intel, we noticed that the lack of digital readiness and digital skills among women is a critical factor, a factor that society must address to reduce the digital divide. And thus, our mission actually became to make technology inclusive and expand digital readiness. Intel is committed to expanding digital readiness by partnering with 30 country governments, taking it to 30,000 institutions worldwide, and empowering more than 30 million people by 2030 with AI skills, both for current and future jobs. But what exactly is digital readiness, and what is the starting point? So digital readiness basically encompasses 3 factors: skills, learning all about new emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, getting to trust emerging technologies in that space, and most importantly, ensuring responsible use of superpowers like AI for broader socioeconomic benefits. Now, gender parity must start by creating digital readiness and skilling the future workforce. So for example, and this is a story which is really very close to our hearts. It's a young girl in school called Tina Sahu back in India. She developed her AI project called Happiness Guru to predict the onset of depression in students, and she studies in an all-girls school in her high school, basically. From there, she went on to complete a course on AI ethics and has now, very recently, started her career as a data analyst. So let's quickly look at her success story. Can I have the video, please? So empowering girls like Tina Sahu with AI readiness skills and building an ecosystem which can really help strengthen the workforce participation for them is a good starting point, one would say. But starting any kind of a societal change is always good, but continuing it is most crucial. So our focus here is on ensuring continued learning, building resilience, providing economic growth opportunities for girls and women, which basically allows them to get equal economic representation. It allows them to have an equal voice on the table, not just be on the table, but have a strong voice on the table. So in the very recently concluded G20 Alliance for the Empowerment and Progression of Women's Economic Representation, which is called the G20 Empower Group, we launched a platform called Tech Equity. And in fact, this was in collaboration with multiple governments across the G20 countries, multilaterals such as UN Women, and academic organizations. The intent of Tech Equity is to provide equity and access of high-quality learning and skill enhancement programs to accelerate the career potential and growth opportunities for women across our countries. It's basically available in 120 languages. It's free of access to everyone. It is very much alive and completely available for you to go and explore. It's inclusive, accessible, so much so it also supports individuals with dyslexia, ADHD, color blindness, and has a read aloud feature for the visually impaired. So as we look forward, right, what really happens is, whenever we are trying to increase digital inclusion and gender parity, there are a couple of pillars which we follow at Intel. For one, for our people and industry, we understand our shared commitments, such as social equity. How do we really build that? Supplier diversity, that's something we strongly encourage, and industry collaboration. For our communities, we strive to positively impact global social challenges, ensure equitable access and opportunities to keep inspiring the next generation of innovators and technologists. And for the world, we look at ways to apply our technologies to resolve those global challenges. We've embedded diversity, equity, inclusion, all considerations, in fact, into our own product life cycle. So there is a practice of inclusive language to drive awareness, dialogue, and industry-wide change in all our products and documentation. But our D&I, our diversity inclusion journey, really doesn't end there. Even though the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission does not require employers to file data, we continue to believe it's important to disclose it publicly. So transparency and open sharing of our data enables us to both celebrate progress and identify key areas for action and improvement. You can find all the details of the graph which you see here on our D&I public website. What this really does, it helps our diverse employees believe in our principle of continuously improving diversity, equity, and inclusion outcomes in technology for our people, our markets, and our communities worldwide. At Intel, we create world-changing technology that enriches the lives of every person on Earth. Let me finish with our co-founder, Robert Noyce's quote. Don't be encumbered by history. Let's all go off and do something wonderful. Thank you so much.